We will now open the hearing for Senate Bill 592. Welcome, Senator Ennis.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dan Ennis here from Bradford, New Hampshire, representing District 7. And I'm going to introduce this bill and speak to it, and I would prefer not to take any questions. Bradley Haas, 63, was working as a security officer at New Hampshire Hospital in Concord when a gunman opened fire in the front lobby. Despite efforts to save him, Haas died of his injuries. He was working for the Department of Safety at the time of the shooting. Before that, he had spent 28 years with the Franklin, New Hampshire Police Department, starting as a patrol officer, eventually becoming the chief of police in the city of Franklin. He retired from that department in 2008. He was also a veteran of the U.S. Army. And there's a quote from New Hampshire Attorney General John Formella, which I think captures things pretty well. And John said, Chief Haas was already a hero when he walked into work that fateful day, given his service to our country, to our state, and to his community. He will now be remembered as a man who died protecting patients, staff, and visitors at New Hampshire Hospital. Brad grew up in Franklin. He attended Franklin High School, went on to serve his country as a military police officer in the U.S. Army, before becoming a police officer in his hometown of Franklin. Brad served his community for 26 years. He was respected as an officer and a leader, and he became the chief of police for the city of Franklin. After retirement, he worked for the U.S. Postal Service and then as a security officer for the state of New Hampshire. While I was never fortunate enough to meet Brad, people that I have talked with said he was a kind and loving person who was committed to his family, his friends, his community, his state, and his nation. That's all illustrated very clearly by his career and his service. Importantly, he enjoyed time with his son and his family. He and his son had much in common, as father and son often do. And Brad, from what I'm told, was always there to help everyone, because that's who he was. We can never understand senseless acts like what happened to Mr. Haas. It's hard to process. Nothing we can say or do will bring him back. But we can remember Brad. And I'm pleased to bring this bill forward to name a portion of New Hampshire Highway 127 as the Bradley Haas Memorial Highway. Brad traveled this segment of highway often, almost daily. His heroic life, his love of his fellow citizens, and his protective mission will always be remembered. And this honorific naming will, I hope, be a part of those fond memories. May God bless Mr. Bradley Haas, his family, and his friends. And may God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair will now call Senator Lang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. I just come in support and testimony in support of this bill. I served with Brad in a neighboring town. We were police officers together. I was there when he became a sergeant in Franklin back in the day, having served next in the community right next to him. With our mutual aid compacts we have with our communities, it's not uncommon for a small town to ask for another town for help. Brad, on a regular basis, was on duty when I was working and would call requests for help. And you cannot have a better police officer looking at diffuse situations to resolve complex issues. Brad was a phenomenal police officer. So this section of 127 leads into my hometown of Samberton. I very much support that you pass this bill with an OTP recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair will now call Lee Baronis.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lee Baronis. I'm a state traffic engineer with New Hampshire DOT. I prepared a fiscal note late last week, which I believe was submitted this morning. So I am here to answer any questions if needed. I will, if none now, I will be here if there's any other questions. The fiscal note just covers the costs of installing a sign, which would be the responsibility of my bureau. So if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
The chair will now call Steve Putin?
Putin.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody gets it right, Madam Chairperson.
Well, my eyes aren't so good even with glasses,
I'm
so
with
there you
My-
go.
My eye doctor says as we mature because he didn't want to call me old. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. A little personal to me. So Brad had been my brother-in-law for at least 10 years. Connor's just a gift to all of us, his son. Yeah, obviously, still
Take
hurts.
your time. We're very sorry for your loss. It's a
No, I
loss to
appreciate
all
it.
of us.
Yeah, as a former brother-in-law, I still loved and respected the man. He was, I think the first time I saw him, I joked at his memorial service. The first time I saw him in uniform was my bachelor party when he came to break up a fight in progress. It was not me, and I've been happily married for 34 years. Not that that's a telltale. Brad was always a quiet professional. I had talked to the governor and then Senator Innes's staff. The reason I believe that section of road was extremely important was Brad lived, his family moved to Victory Drive in Franklin on 127 in 1970 when he was 8 or 10 years old. He lived there until he went in the military, returned there when he got home and joined Franklin Police Department. Shortly thereafter, the late 80s, he actually bought a piece of property further up on New Hampton Road, which is also 127, between Central Street and Samberton. And then just before he married my sister, they bought a piece of property in Samberton just off of Route 127 after the general store. So he continued to drive that road from 1970 until his retirement in 2008. So I thought that section of road was extremely appropriate. As Senator Lang said, he's from Samberton. I actually spent 14 years, either full-time or part-time on the Samberton Police Department, or 18 years, and worked with Brad in neighboring communities. Went to his retirement party. My entire family was there. So there was never any ill will. It was, an amicable split, and we were all very fond of Brad and raising Connor. So I thought that section of road was an easy target. And I would appreciate your support on behalf of the family.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak? Okay. Seeing none, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 592. And while we have time until the next hearing, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. I'd like to make a motion of ought to pass on Senate Bill 592.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. None opposed? The motion carries, and I will take it out, and it will not be going on consent. Thank you. I know, but they wanted to talk about it on the floor anyway. Now I need a motion to come out of executive.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? We are now out of the executive session, and we will take a recess until 1:15. Well, thank you, Vice Chairman Waters and members of the Transportation Committee. For the record, my name is Denise Ricciardi, and I represent 13 beautiful towns in my district from Bedford all the way up to Winchester. I am here to introduce Senate Bill 598 FN, requiring vehicles leading a funeral procession to obey yield signs. I was asked by my constituent, Mark Cornier, who owns Cornier Funeral Home and Cremation Center in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, to file this bill, which would make a technical addition to the current statute RSA 265:156 regarding funeral processions. The New Hampshire Funeral Directors Association is here to testify in favor of the bill and answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Senator Ricciardi. Are there any questions for the senator? Thank you. And next up, we have Mark Cornier from Cornier Funeral Home. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Vice Chairman Waters. Oh. Thank you. I am Mark Canoyer. I own the Canoyer Funeral Home in Jaffrey. Licensed funeral director and embalmer here in New Hampshire. I also bring with me former experience as being a certified police officer here in the state of New Hampshire. I am here today in support of Senate Bill 598 FN, and mainly because it's my fault. It's here in front of you all today. The current version of RSA 265-156 is excellently written and followed a best practices approach when it was originally signed into law over 20 years ago. However, it does fail to directly address the type of intersection growing in the popularity around our beautiful state, namely roundabouts, traffic circles, rotaries. All of those involve or are controlled only by yield signs. This came to my attention in informational meetings in Jaffrey. They're bringing 2 roundabouts into the center of our town. And obviously it's our concern to, get processions safely through any intersection. And one simple question, it took over 4 years to get a solid answer for. Will funeral processions be able to proceed as safely through these new intersections as they are with other types of intersections with the current RSA? And the answer was no. So the engineers and I did finally speak, and they were very quick to offer the suggested addition of 2 words, yield signs, to the current language in order to assist with the growing issue. And this Senate bill provides for the needed clarification and simple addition to the current RSA, more or less a housekeeping type of effort to bring this law and the safety it provides for all funeral processions in the state of New Hampshire up to date. I do have the correspondence between William Lambert and I and others, and I'm happy to answer any questions at all.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from members of the committee?
I have a question.
Senator Ward.
Thank you very much. How have you handled this up to this point?
We always do call the police departments in the towns we're traveling through with our processions. And, that additional presence helps us through any intersection. Manpower is becoming an issue with all the police departments, I fear, and it is not always easy to get assistance, but we do have the additional lighting on our vehicles and just try to do the best we can. This is,
So you always have a police car in front of the lineup, right?
no, we have a lead vehicle, which is typically illuminated with purple and white flashing lights.
Okay.
And
So what, in the past, have you just gone right through the yield signs or what? I'm just
no,
curious
no,
because I'm
we
surprised.
have, this is more of a technical, housekeeping thing. We have proceeded very carefully through these intersections as we do any intersection. And it's again, simply housekeeping to make sure when something happens, there is clarification
Okay.
in the law behind it.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for your testimony.
Welcome.
And next, Peter Moran from the Hampshire Funeral Director. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Senator Waters, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Want to thank you for taking the time to hear me this afternoon. I'm here my name is Peter Moore, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Hampshire Funeral Directors and Embalmers Association here in New Hampshire. I'm also a licensed New Hampshire Funeral Director and Embalmer. And I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 598 FN. And I'm trying not to repeat much that Mark has said, but it's going to be very similar. As we found in the state in recent years, we've had an increased construction of rotaries and roundabouts and traffic circles, whatever we might call them. I live in Surrey, New Hampshire, and of course Senator Donovan is my senator in Keene, and he would verify what I was saying. In Keene, along with Central Square, which has been there for hundreds of years, it's a square which is a circle, but we won't get into that. But and that's controlled by like 3 traffic lights, but 2 yield entrances coming in. But with Central Square, we have a total of 8 roundabouts in Keene. These are all in the last 10 years, if not less than that. Some of them are on like 101, which is a major one, which is the learning curve in that was lengthy.
Yep.
People learning how to navigate those. We have a lot of smaller ones in Keene. So we've really seen that. And I know the state has proposed others and will continue to do so. It is actually a very effective means of controlling traffic, and not only controlling the flow of traffic, but also, not keeping vehicles, idling for 5-10 minutes at a time with a change of lights. And what we found with, as Mark had pointed out, with RSA 265-156 is that when this was written, the yield signs were not included. And I think this has become more of an issue now that we've found through these construction projects. And it's time that we remedy this situation. It's really going to enhance the statute and allowing the safe traffic patterns for funeral vehicles and processions. And so I'm just trying to think what else I need to say here without repeating myself. We just find it's this is a necessary thing to be done, and this would be the time to do it. We do negotiate these roundabouts, these traffic circles with the utmost caution, because we can't, even though we may legally have the right of way, even with a stop sign. Yes, once we stop, we may legally have the right of way, but we have to just use prudent behavior. I mean, we always have to be defensive drivers, and we advise all of our families to do so. Also in New Hampshire, under the statute, the vehicles within a procession are marked with flags, with funeral flags. They should have their hazards on. But as we know now in our present day, is a lot of drivers are extremely distracted, any number of things, and don't even think to either hesitate or yield if they needed to in their case. But as I've always joked, I never like to argue with the laws of physics when I get into these situations. And so we're here asking for your support in passing and having Senate Bill 598 ought to pass. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from members of the committee?
I don't think so.
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And anybody who didn't sign up would like to speak? I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 598.
I'm going to make a motion to go into executive
Second.
session. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. So the members of the committee can get their paperwork out. We're going to exec Senate Bill 598 that we just heard, Senate Bill 512, and Senate Bill 427, just to give you a few moments.
And 592.
Oh, and 592. So you can take a few moments to just get your documents out, and then we will proceed.
Oh, we did 592. What am I saying? Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Done.
Thought so, but I was like,
Yeah, really.
I'll start with what we just heard. So that'll give you time to look at the other two bills. So I'm looking for a motion on Senate Bill 598.
Motion ought to pass.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed?
And you'll take it out.
Yes, I will take that one out.
So, if we're ready, I would like to move on Senate Bill 427. I'd like to move interim study.
I'll second that, and we can certainly open it up for discussion as everyone takes a look.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And if I may, what I'd say is that, you know, I really understand what Senator Lang is trying to achieve here, but we certainly heard from folks about the difficulties of this program and the physical impacts. And so I, not having heard about an amendment or anything else, I think it probably makes sense to interim study it, and that will actually give us some time to think about if there's another something else to come up with for next session.
Any comments, Senator Gendro?
Yeah, I think he's very close. You know, I know Senator Lang's been working on this for many years. And even he and I spoke and I said, you're so close. And I think your intent is to kind of help with the clogging up maybe, or the time factor of students going in for driver's ed. The other thing that I heard from parents was they don't want to be responsible for teaching their kids good habits because they've now got these bad habits. So that's what I had heard from a lot of parents. So that was just comments.
Yeah, the fiscal note, the fact of the current providers that do the driver's ed, it just isn't really ready for prime time. Senator Ward, do you have any comments?
No, I think in interim study, it's a good choice for
Okay.
for the bill. I think there are a lot of questions that we don't really have the answers to yet, so.
Okay, so since we've discussed that, then I will ask for a vote of interim study on Senate Bill 427. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Who would like to take that out?
I'll take it out.
Thank you, Senator Ward. I'd like a motion, please, on Senate Bill 512.
I will move interim study on 512.
Okay, and I'll second that for our discussion. So this was relative to the 10-year highway plan, and it seems that that's coming up. So it makes a lot of sense to interim study this till we have the highway in 10-year plan in front of us. Like to add, embellish on that, Senator Waters?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And, you know, I think over last year and this year, I think we've all been convinced something's got to be done. And, you know, one might have thought that we could pass it and then just have it tabled or something. But I think in this case, it's pretty clear the intent of this committee when we get the 10-year highway plan is to try to do something about this. And so I think it's probably, since we're trying to avoid passing bills that designate special funding for just one district, as we've done with some of the bills already this term, not gone down that route. I think that's what the president prefers, so that, or certainly Senator Gray prefers. So anyways, I think the interim study makes sense on this.
I would agree.
And we'll be able to talk about it on the floor too,
That's
because
true.
they won't be on consent, so.
Um,
I mean, I'm sure Senator Chandler might like to speak to it, so,
Since it's, definitely something
Yeah.
she's worked very hard on.
yeah.
Senator Ward, do you have any comments?
No.
Okay, then I will ask for a vote on Senate Bill 512 for interim study. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Senator Gendro, do you want to take that out?
Sure.
Okay. While we're in executive session, is there anything else that any of the members would like to discuss?
Nope.
No? Okay, then I make a motion to leave executive session. All those in favor?
Second and.
Aye.
Aye. Seconded, aye. Okay, none opposed.
Oh, look at that. Record time.
Record time. But we do need a motion to just adjourn in general.
I move. we
Okay,
adjourn.
okay.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn, Senate
Aye.
Transportation, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, none? Have a nice day, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.